close fun friends. Going out. I guess it was your time to go. I guess you heard your call. Everything will be fine as we watch your seeds go. They won't hurt at all. Sitting here just reminiscing on the times we used to share. Now it's only just a memory. Words could never say how much we're missing you, but I'm aware you're in heaven looking down on me. When will we meet again? All of our fallen friends. When will we have a time to share? With us you'll always be.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening. Good evening. Would you believe it's 2026? We're into a brand new year. It's Monday, January 5th, and you're listening to Your Voice with the NRP. I'm Stevenson Manners. Happy New Year to all of you at home and in the diaspora. And with me for the next 90 minutes, it's going to be J.D. Keynes. We are off to an inauspicious start in our part of the world. Of course, the invasion of Venezuela, the snatching or capturing or kidnapping, whatever you call it, of Maduro. And so we will discuss Venezuela, the United States, Trump, Maduro, and of course Caribbean leadership. That will be later in the program, so call your friends, rally around for the initial program of Your Voice with the NRP, with the dynamic J.D. Keynes. J.D. Keynes, good night. Happy New Year to you.
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and good evening to everyone who's tuned to Your Voice with the NRP. Happy New Year. Can you believe it? We are already in the year 2026. I mean, it's for me, it's shocking.
Shocking. We're speeding along.
Yes, we're definitely speeding along. But on the positive side, it means that we are closer to getting a new government here on Nevis. Because for me, 2026 is all about positivity. Yes, I try to find the good in everything. But I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And if this is your first time listening to Your Voice, thank you for joining us. Do not make it your last. We are here every Monday night from 8:30 to 10. And there are a number of avenues for you to tune in. You can also join the conversation by giving us a call a little bit later in the program. So be sure to take notes, jot down your points so that you too can be part of it. Notice the name of the program is Your Voice with the NRP. So we are here because we are sharing some of the concerns that have been shared with us by you, but we always prefer to hear from you. And so if at any time you feel the need to weigh in, now is the time. Meaning the time is right. We don't necessarily mean call at this hour, but we want you to call in, we want you to weigh in, and that's what we want going forward. We want people to not be afraid to stand up and say the things that are bothering them. And even if it's something that you like, feel free to share. If you have an idea that you think can enhance the island of Nevis, feel free to share, because that's what we're all about, Mr. Manners.
Okay, and you've got some other things to weigh in on. Condolences, congratulations. We've come out of the Christmas season and we've eased into a new year, new dispensation.
Correct. So this evening we will be talking about a number of things. I want to do a bit of a recap, and so as we go through the program, you would realize that a lot of that is highlighted. But of course, I always like to start on a positive note by, greeting everyone in the diaspora right here at home, wherever you are. I also like to offer congratulations to any and everyone who may be celebrating a milestone. Recently, we had St. Kitts and Nevis's National Carnival, also known as Sugar Mass, and it was held in St. Kitts and Nevis with most, if not all, of the activities actually on St. Kitts. I want to correct people who somehow think that it is St. Kitts' Carnival. It is actually called St. Kitts and Nevis National Carnival, okay? That's very important. And so an invitation is there for all of us to participate, for all of us to capitalize on what Carnival has to offer. So, of course, congratulations to all of the winners and the placers. I attended in person one activity, which is not the norm for me, but it has been a busy one. I was tuned though for a number of them, but I attended the panorama competition, which was a very, very good competition. And there were two bands from Nevis. Two out of the four bands competing were from Nevis, and one of them, which is the Nevis Community Development Steel Orchestra, placed first runner-up. So I want to say congratulations to that team led by Mr. Gavin Patterson. The other team, which I personally think performed commendably, was the Holy Rhythm Steel Orchestra, and that's led by Junior Leroy Paris Jr. And so I want to, encourage them. You may not have gotten the result that you wanted, but I think, and it was the consensus of a number of persons, Mr. Manners, that they performed well. People were even saying, listen, the first and the winner and the first runner-up awards should be coming on the boat. Those were some of the comments that we were hearing. But it was a very good competition, and I must say that all of the bands, not just the Nevis bands, all of the bands really, really did well. And I commend the children or the young people. In most of these cases, I know for sure with Oli, they are children, a few young adults, but generally my daughter is in that. She actually played with a younger band last year, but they merged this year, and she's 12. She's probably one of the younger ones, but they are teenagers. Same thing for Nevis Community Development. A lot of them are young people, and so we want to commend them, and it's good to see them finding an interest in our culture, because steel pan is one of the musical instruments that we have adopted as part of our culture, so kudos to them. And then we have some new monarchs and queens, and in St. Kitts and Nevis we have Tariq Drew, also known as King Druzy. Congratulations, Tariq. You put in the work and you are reaping the reward. So congratulations. Tariq and I get along well. That's Kajni's friend. So kudos to Kajni's friend Tariq. Then I don't even quite remember who the other places were for the Calypso.
Socrates was first runner-up and Miss Independent.
Oh, yes.
Second runner-up.
Correct, yes. So those are two former monarchs as well. So congratulations to them. In the Queen Show, we had Miss Treasure Didier being the new St. Kitts and Nevis Queen. And I am so proud of Treasure. I am very, very proud of Treasure. I actually met Treasure for the first time at Panorama in person. But Treasure and I have been dialoguing since about September of last year. I won't say in what capacity, but I'm proud of her. I am proud of her achievements, particularly copying the Best Question and Answer Award. And you can figure out why I am especially proud of that.
I figured it out already. Mm-hmm.
You can figure out why I'm especially proud of that. So kudos to Treasure, a wonderful young lady. And I think she will represent us well. In terms of the junior monarchs, we had a newcomer in Corinne Clark being crowned as the primary school junior monarch. And then at the secondary level, we had not a newcomer at all, very seasoned and great performer, Edward, well, EG, they call him EG, doing a wonderful job. He actually won at the Nevis Culturama level as well. So kudos to those two junior monarchs. We had a few divisions participating in the competition, and we commend them for the work that they have done, and hope that they don't get discouraged and they continue to keep at it.
Well, let me just say a little word about Corinne Clark, because she's a young phenom. I think born in Trinidad.
Yes.
Father
From St. Kitts.
from St. Kitts.
Yes. I went to school with him,
But the son
Yeah.
of Charles Clark of Chickenstone, and by extension the nephew of Joya Clark, who sometimes leads the Nevis Community Choir.
Okay.
But I think at a very young age she became an author.
She's a wonderful young girl.
She has
Wonderful.
written books, and to listen to her interviews on the parade route, wherever she was featured, her picture taking with the Prime Minister, she is somebody we've got to keep our eyes on. Definitely an outstanding talent. So remember the name, Corinne Clark.
Yes, and her mother and I are familiar with each other from the credit union movement, because she works at one of the sister credit unions, and I can attest to her drive and commitment. Very organized person. So I mean, I can see that trickling down to Corinne, and the dad, he's into music as well. Yeah, he loves music. So kudos to Corinne and all the others. At the teen level, we have a new Miss Teen St. Kitts Nevis in Tatiana Archer. She performed absolutely amazing. But for me, that show was of a very, very high standard. Probably one of the best that we've seen in a while in terms of the level of competition. And it just showed that it came down to consistency. Similar with the Queen show. And this is something that a lot of people don't recognize. You have to be consistent. You have to be well-rounded when you're entering these competitions. So kudos to Tatiana Archer. By now, everyone knows that she is the daughter of Janet Johnson, who passed away less than 24 hours after her daughter was crowned, and they're actually having a candlelight vigil for her in St. Kitts as we speak. And if I'm not mistaken, she will be laid to rest tomorrow.
Yes, she will. Yeah.
And Janet is someone who I know as well, having been in the pageantry field for a number of years. As a matter of fact, the first time I saw Janet was back in 2005, because I entered the Miss Culture pageant then, and she chaperoned a contestant in that same show. So that was the first time, and people actually thought that she was one of the contestants as well. Always well put together. I mean, if you think she looked good up until her death, you could imagine how she looked 20 years ago. And so I know Janet from then. I know Janet working with various shows in St. Kitts and Nevis, including the Caribbean Culture Queen pageant. Very good talent, very passionate. She also worked at one of the sister credit unions, so I know her in a number of capacities, and she will definitely be missed, Mr. Manners.
Okay, so we wish her family all the best, of course, with the vigil tonight and her final tributes tomorrow.
Yes.
That is a great talent that we have lost.
And I want to, before we move on, I want to really say kudos to the National Carnival Committee for recognizing Janet in the way that they did, because they didn't cast her death aside and just move on business as usual. They actually staged the Miss St. Kitts and Nevis pageant, formerly known as the National Carnival Queen pageant, in her honor. And by the way, she was a chaperone of one of the contestants in that same show as well. So imagine that contestant was preparing with a coach, and just days before her pageant, everything came to a halt because her coach died suddenly. And so that had to be a lot on her. And I think that she too needs to be commended for having the will to continue. And not just that, when the Queen was falling ill on stage, because she was ill backstage as well, but when she was falling ill on stage, you would recognize that she started to lose her balance, and it was that same contestant who reached over and held her up until they were able to take her off the stage,
Mm-hmm.
have her regroup, and then bring her back in a chair this time. So, I mean, that just speaks to her selflessness, that contestant, and I think she too should be commended. I don't think that that is something we should overlook. I think it just speaks to the type of person that that young lady is, and she really should be commended. But yeah, so kudos to Chia, Shannon Harley, and the others who made sure that throughout Carnival this year, Janet's name was mentioned.
And of course, we have to give kudos to Shannon Hawley, who had a change of name on Saturday, in what people on social media styled a Hollywood-style wedding at a famous restaurant in St. Kitts. So straight out of Carnival into a new life. And I think no credit is too much for Shannon Hawley. I understand she was Carnival chair back in 2011. So this is her second go around, and this is her fifth year. And I don't think that anybody could deny that Shannon Hawley has taken St. Kitts Carnival to another level.
Miss Shannon Harley is a planner, Mr. Manners, and so she is someone who does not cave under pressure. She is forthright. She knows what she's about because she is the brainchild behind Express Events, which normally hosts events of its own and actually is a big feature during the music festival in terms of the VIP experience. And so she already proved herself there. And so Carnival was just another step or the step up for her. And you're so correct, she did it before, so she was able to get her feet wet, and I think she continues to do a good job. And it's always pleasing for me as a young woman to see other women leading the charge and commanding the respect, because certainly people know her name, and whether you agree with her or like her, you would respect her. So kudos to her, and congratulations on her nuptials.
What lessons can Nevis learn from what St. Kitts is doing with their carnival? We have Culturama, they have Carnival. I have been long advocating that the Culturama committee should infuse persons or have persons in Nevis work along with the Carnival committee. Of course, we know Abernathy Libert is there, but he's gone from the Culturama chair. I was disappointed in Carrie Fester that the new chairperson who got his feet wet was sort of pushed in at the deep end, wasn't taken to Carrie Fester, for instance, to see how the Caribbean's greatest festival is run. But there's no question about it. Culturama is a few notches down from where Carnival has been in the last 5 years. What lessons can we learn from what they're doing on the bigger island?
I don't think that it's a matter of St. Kitts doing something that Nevis isn't capable of doing. I think it's about having the right people in place. And I'll tell you why. Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, it is St. Kitts and Nevis's National Carnival, not St. Kitts Carnival. And so Nevis should have a greater presence at that level. Culturama is Nevis Culturama. Strangely enough, St. Kitts seems to have more of a presence at Nevis Culturama than Nevis has at St. Kitts and Nevis's National
That's
Carnival.
strange, eh?
You know, strangely enough. But I think it's about the partnerships that exist and being able to work alongside people. Yes, you mentioned that Abernathy Libert is over on St. Kitts, but even if you're not serving in the capacity as chair of a committee, certainly I could see us working alongside. I remember back in the early 2000s, I can't remember the exact year, but I was working for the Department of Information at the time, and Culturama had a presence at the St. Kitts Music Festival. Everywhere you turn, there was an ad during the St. Kitts Music Festival. I'm told now that, you know, there's a fee attached, but at the time, we had that relationship, you know, and I remember it well because I was one of the persons to voice that ad. And so it is not something that cannot be done. I will say, though, that Noah Mills doesn't get enough credit because Noah Mills, I think, really tried to include Nevis quite a bit when he was chair of the Carnival Committee, because Noah as a matter of fact, held a lot of activities that I think came out of the Nevis Culturama framework. The Mr. Cool slash Mr. GQ started in St. Kitts after Nevis did Mr. Cool, and so the same thing with the swimsuit competition. And so Noah Mills, I think, really did a good job in terms of having that synergy. But it is for us to reach out, and the policy direction must come from the top. I was one who was very critical of the organizers of Carry Fest on the local end, in terms of making sure that we had a greater presence there, and also there were some other trips that had to do with culture and creative economy, etc. Until I was told, no, JD, the invitation was extended, but it was the minister responsible for culture who dropped the ball. And so I did my research, because, like I said, I was very critical of it, and to find that that was the case. And so sometimes it is not the ordinary man or woman. And there's more to that story, by the way. Sometimes it's not the ordinary man or woman who we see every day, but there's a lot of things that happens behind closed doors that we don't know about. For example, I have a little situation with the Culturama office and Culturama committee that I had to send them a little note, and I plan to follow up on that little note, because, you know, it seems as if we are allowing personalities to get in the way of running Culturama and ensuring that Culturama is around for years to come. I mentioned, you asked about Carnival, but even right here on Nevis, there are people who are capable of taking our festival to another level, but because of politics, we don't have that level of embrace. You know, so that's one of the problems, Mr. Manners.
Okay, well, we have been extending congratulations. So we did to all the winners. We did to Shannon Hawley, and I don't think that we can leave out Mr. Samuel Duggins. I am in awe of that gentleman. I know he gets a lot of licks because he has agriculture, which doesn't always do that well, and as we say, is not sexy. But what that gentleman has done for the creative economy in St. Kitts is astounding. The creative sector in St. Kitts seems alive and buzzing. Your take on that is, has he been able to take it to another level, or it's just my perception?
I think he's doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's doing his job. And for me, I'm not easily impressed. I do think he's doing his job, and I do think there is a buzz surrounding the creative economy. And so everyone, including the minister who has contributed to that, should be commended. However, I think that most of the hype is because it is a new ministry. Because remember, prior to, I don't remember which year, there was no Ministry of Creative Economy. And so that's one of the things that the Labour administration did, which I think was commendable, was kind of restructure some of the ministries and sectors so that they are more in line with our needs now. So that, I think, is commendable. And that is why I think it is standing out as it is. However, the creative economy is much more. For a start, it's good, but it's much more than what meets the eye, you know. And we need to remember that it's a St. Kitts and Nevis government. As it relates to a creative economy on Nevis, that doesn't exist. So for me, I would want to see something similar, even a subset, an office, something similar on Nevis. And then you could get me being a little bit more enthused about it. But it's not to say that I don't think that strides are being made, because I certainly do. I'm just not wowed yet. But I'm open to being wowed. So wow me if you can.
Okay. One of the areas in the creative economy which Nevis seems to be doing better than St. Kitts was in steel band. And you could correct me because you go to those activities. This year you had 2 steel bands from St. Kitts, 2 steel bands from St. Kitts. From Nevis. Last year I think it was more like 4 from Nevis and 2 from St. Kitts.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, the chairperson said to me that the Nevis bands were having a challenge moving to St. Kitts. Imagine you have, I don't know the numbers, but maybe 50 plus steel bands to move. There must be cost associated and all of that. And I even joked Well, since most of the bands are on Nevis in the last 2-3 years, why not move that event to Nevis? And he said to me that will never happen because the gate receipts, in fact, for Panorama are probably the best for Carnival.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the bigger shows.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely one of the bigger shows, and I think because it's a family type event,
Okay.
and so you would recognize that they would be young, not so young. You don't have to dress all the way up, and so it is one of the bigger shows for St. Kitts and Nevis Carnival. They're not lying, but I understand your rationale, and I understand theirs as well.
Uh-huh.
But the Nevis bands, and trust me, Nevis could have sent 4 bands again this year, right? They have the capacity to, because I told you last year, Gavin Patterson had 2, and Junior Paris had 2. And so they have that capacity. What they did this year was kind of just merge them for a number of reasons. Because remember, too, sponsorship remains an issue. Some bands are able to secure significant sums in sponsorship that others may not be able to. So there's a lot of different factors, but I am impressed with the work that has been done by Patterson and Paris in terms of really getting young people in particular interested in the steepan, because it's not easy dealing with young people right now, and not just because of the behavior but also because of the demands on them. They have so much to do. I could recall having to pick up my daughter and I'm in the vehicle sleeping until they're ready. I mean, it was some long hours. And then there were times when I said, boy, I really wanted to do this, but she kept saying, I like it, I want to. She likes the steel pan, so, I was all for it.
You're talking about sponsorship, and the morning after, a number of us met up in the supermarket and we were discussing it. Of course, there's some people who felt that the community group from Nevis was the best. That always happens. There are different views. And I said, well, how is it that EBG Harmonics is sponsored by the Bank of Nevis? Shouldn't that sponsorship have gone to a Nevis group? They said, well, that's for the 4th Street branch. So the groups in Nevis are not attracting the level of sponsorship they desire?
Certainly not the level of sponsorship that the other group has. Last year, a statement was released about the sponsorship funds that went into that particular group, and it was shocking. It was shocking, the level of sponsorship that went into that group, and so it is very hard to compete with that. But I will say though, that group puts in the work, they continue to do well, and you can't be mad at the group for attracting its sponsorship, and for being a judge the winner. You can't be mad at the group because they didn't judge themselves, they didn't sponsor themselves, so you can't be mad at the group. But I just think we as a community really need to assess our priorities, because I must admit, I felt some type of way from last year when I recognized that so much money, thousands and thousands of dollars, went to a single group when there were 6 groups in all, 4 of them being from Nevis, where that institution is based. I must say, I felt offended. But at the end of the day, you put your money where you feel comfortable, Mr. Manners.
One of the things, we're going to wind up this segment of congratulations in a bit. One of the things I found out during this year, well, I found out that last year too, is that for this particular competition, the EBJ Harmonics, for instance, flies people in from Trinidad. And in fact, for Trinidad Carnival, which was supposed to be launched yesterday, people from that steel band go down to Trinidad, and that Junior brings Pan Maestro in from Antigua. That fusion, that collab seemed to be working well for the bands in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, it's all about networking and finding the resources where necessary, where possible. We know that Mr. Patterson, for example, is from
Trinidad?
the steel pan capital. I would call Trinidad the steel pan capital. And so everybody taps into the resources that they think are beneficial to them. That's neither here nor there for me. But I just don't want us to kill the panorama experience. I want it to be fair. I want us to recognize that these are young people who have put a lot of time and effort into their craft. And so if we want to see it continuing for years to come, we need to ensure that we have that level of fair adjudication. We expose the groups to getting additional assistance so that we can continue to raise the bar, Mr. Manners. Because I would certainly like to see more than 4 groups in the competition going forward. Even though it was a quality show, I would like to see more than 4 groups.
Okay, to round out this segment, the Nevis Culturama Festival today announced its Culturama 52 slogan, or Heritage Proud and True. It's Culturama 52. This year we celebrate who we are, our roots, our resilience, and the rich traditions that define Nevis. From culture and creativity to community and pride, Culturama 52 is a true reflection of our people and our story. Get ready for a festival that honors the past, celebrates the present, and inspires the future. The countdown has begun. Didn't quite say who the winner was, but we'll find out in time. But Carnival is over. Culturama is off and running. We know we got to a high for Culturama 50, sort of went down for 51. What would you like to see going forward to the summer festival?
I would like to see a restructuring of the Culturama committee so that it's more inclusive to represent Nevision culture. I would like to see people being involved regardless of the affiliation. I would like to see people really being committed to moving the festival forward. And that won't happen if we continue to politicize Culturama. And that's me speaking frankly. I speak as someone who has worked in so many capacities as it relates to Culturama. I have been a contestant, I have been a coach, I have been a judge, I have been a committee chair. I've been a troop organizer. I've done a lot when it comes to Culturama in my very little years. And so I think that it's time for us to reach out to people and get varying views and opinions and just make it a little bit better. Because don't fool yourself now. There are people who are right there in the Culturama committee who want to see things better, but they continue to be stopped or they continue to be suffocated by others whose goals are slightly different. And I speak of those at the top, because the policy direction must come from the top. And so until the Minister of Culture recognizes that Culturama is not about him, but Culturama is about our people and celebrating our culture and our history and our emancipation, then that's what we'll get, Mr. Manners.
In a moment, we'll go to the promo for a program which is voiced by Rohan Als, and I know you've got some condolences to express to him.
Just quickly, I just want to offer condolences to anyone who may be bereaved at this time. That's one of the things we normally do at the start of the program, but we kind of got a little bit in, and so I can speak specifically of the Als family because I know that they recently lost a loved one, and I also am aware of the Pinney family in the Cox Hill area, who lost a loved one as well. So a few persons are bereaved at this time, including the family of a young man who passed away, who died suddenly in a drowning incident just a few days ago. And so we just want to lift them up and let them know that we are thinking of them, and especially the fact that in some cases it seems sudden. So we just want to offer our sincerest condolences. No amount of words can probably heal you, but I hope that you find comfort in the fond memories of your loved ones. So Rohan, be strong.
I share those sentiments, and of course we've got a week of funerals. Today was the funeral, the homegoing service for Nurse Sylvia Ward, who has had a distinguished career starting at the Alexandra Hospital on the 1st of June 1952 and finishing around 1989, I think, somewhere in the 1980s. And she was eulogized by her sister, Her Honor, Mrs. Hailita Liebert, but her daughter, Dawn, who, of course, we know works at Microsoft, was here for Christmas, obviously stayed on, stood in for her mother, and so a very outstanding funeral this afternoon at the Gingerland Methodist. Of course, on Wednesday, there's Merritt Chapman of Brown Pasture, and on Friday, Franklin Rollins, the brother of former OECS jurist, Mr. Hewlett Rollins, and who lost his sister, Olida Gill, whose son works with you at the credit union. So lots of funerals going around, and so we extend our sympathies to all those who are mourning so early in 2026. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
We're back 5 minutes after 9. We're making our way up to 10 o'clock, and this is our first edition for 2026, and our special guest is number one. In number one, the person who ensure gains with canes. And JD, you've got a number of activities which happened around the end of the year, which you've got to fill us in on.
Yes, Mr. Manners, so I was here in December, very early in December, but since that time I've been extremely busy, not just in my professional life at work, but also in my political life and even in my personal life, because it's so much that has been happening that I've been a part of. So in December, I was featured on The Topics with Yason Tafari and Banky King. And it was an absolutely wonderful discussion that we had. And it was my first time, and I was honored to be featured. Really good discussion. We spoke a bit about the budget that was presented at the Nevis Island Assembly level. We spoke a bit about the special sustainability zone matter that is ongoing here, particularly on the island of Nevis, but more so in St. Kitts and Nevis. We spoke about some of the things that we want to see, not just in Nevis, not just in St. Paul's, but in Nevis. And those are things that you will hear from me coming out as the months progress, because Mr. Manners, I understand and I recognize that, listen, Nevis needs a change, and it is time to remind people of why you're different, remind people of what you can bring, and not just you, the individual, but the party, the slate that you're a part of. And so that's one of the things that you will hear a lot more as time progresses. So that was in December, very good feature, and I plan to pull out some of the clips and share, but it has just been so crazy. Also in December, the NRP led another rally, peaceful Protestant rally. This time it was in the St. George's Gingerland area, and the focus, of course, as the name implies, was on the special sustainability zone, and I was able to weigh in on that. I mean, it continues to be a hot topic, and I just like the fact that more and more people are coming out and speaking out about it, and I want to say a little bit more about that soon. But that was in December on the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. Then also in December, as a party, again, we hosted something known as Santa's Whistle Stop, and that's where each constituency received a visit. We made visits to each constituency at several places. We let people know in advance where we would be, and so persons were able to meet us there and receive some small tokens courtesy the Nevis Reformation Party. And it was really good to be spreading Christmas cheer around the island. We started at around just a little after 11 in the morning, and we went well into the evening. So St. Paul was the final stop. By the time they got to St. Paul, it was dark, but we were able to still do that. And I actually had to continue on another day, but I just want to thank everyone who continues to support the Nevis Reformation Party, so who support the caretakers individually and who support the party collectively, for your generous contribution. Some of you gave cash, some of you supported us in kind, and some of you continue to support us emotionally. So we thank you so very much that you were able to help us spread Christmas cheer, and the feedback from the community was good, and so we are happy that we were able to do that. Now, the St. Paul's constituency, even before we as a group, meaning the party as a group, decided to do the Santa's Whistle Stop, initially had an idea to give some care packages to residents of St. Paul, and so we proceeded with that, and so we were able to give 50 families from St. Paul care packages, and these packages were made up of dry goods that they could benefit from, not just in the Christmas season, but whenever. And so again, we thank the members of the St. Paul constituency group for contributing, as well as the persons in the community who really came forward and assisted us. I mean, there were persons saying, look, I think this is an excellent idea, stop by me for this. Stop by. And then you think you're going for one thing and they gave us more. And so, I mean, it really touched my heart. We were able to gift 50 families from St. Paul with care packages. So thank you so much to the members of the group who reached out, because we were very strategic, reached out to persons, and to the persons who came on their own. We really appreciate you. So thank you so much for that. And also to those who contributed to the party's whistle stop. On the 27th of December, our party hosted its second annual end of year awards and gala and awards. This time it was held at the Occasions Entertainment Center. And what I really liked about this year's ceremony is that the focus was on the young people. So last year we identified 5 persons, one from each constituency, who had contributed significantly to the constituency and the party by extension, and those were more seasoned persons. This time around, the focus was on the young people, and so we had 5 young people from Nevis who were awarded, and allow me to just share their names and publicly congratulate them, because I am so proud of my party for recognizing these young people, seeing it fit to recognize these young people. And I'm also proud of these young people for the work that they have done. So from constituency number 1, we had Mr. Devon Cornelius. Devon is no stranger. Devon actually has been featured right here on Your Voice with the NRP. And at his young age, he also served prior as the chairperson of the St. Paul's constituency group. So Devon was the recipient of the Youth Service Award for St. Paul Nevis 1. In Nevis to St. John, the awardee was Miss Tizelle Chapman of Bath Village. And Tizelle, also a very young person, has done a lot, particularly in the area of culinary arts, and she has aligned herself with the youth arm as well. And so we are proud of Tizelle and we congratulate her. In constituency number 3, that's St. George Gingerland, the recipient was Shakila Morton. And Shakila's bio touched me in a particular way, because of one of the things that was mentioned was that Shakila was ill some time back. And
Not just ill, she was born with a heart murmur. That's what the profile said.
And she said that her mother had always told her that, NRP has offered assistance and to her to help her with her care. And she decided on her own that when that time came, she wanted to show her appreciation and her support for the NRP, hence her becoming involved. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. And she singled out Mr. Hensley Daniel, who had worked as Minister of Health, and not just as Minister of Health, but had worked in the civil service for a number of years. And so he had a lot of connections, and he is a caring person. And so I am just so pleased, or I was just so pleased when I heard that. So it shows that the work of NRP continues to resonate. So kudos to Shakila Morton for being the recipient. Also, Shakila was also identified because she too continues to give, not just because she supports the party, but she's there at every event that we have, and she too continues to support the party with her talents. Then in constituency number 4, that's St. James, we had Miss Ann Busu. Now, Anne has been around the NRP since way before Anne could vote. We call her Annie, and the reason why we call her Annie is because that's what we heard her mother saying. Her mother is Delhi Keynes Busu, and Delhi is a former press secretary to the Premier, Mr. Joseph Parry. And so Annie, as we know her, was always up and down behind her mother and around NRP events. I remember thinking that Annie was almost out of school, but Annie was nowhere near time to vote, but she was always there. I could remember when we had those geothermal shirts, you had a group of them. She was one of them who was always there with that. And so she was the recipient of the award in that area. She too has done a lot for the youth arm in particular, and I know she works closely with the party leader in terms of house-to-house activities, etc. in St. James, so quite fitting. And then last but not least, we had Mr. Tyreek Evelyn from St. Thomas's. Tyreek, we know many of us refer to him as Eyeball because he has the company Eyeball Images. He does photography work, soft-spoken but very passionate, very reliable, and he too, I thought, was an excellent fit for the award. He works with us on the communications committee for the Nevis Reformation Party. So kudos to all 5 award recipients. Now, the actual gala was wonderful. I mean, we had a wonderful turnout. I mean, even more than I expected, because people just kept coming, and then the entertainment was good, the food was wonderful, and so we thank everyone who helped to make it special as we continue to raise funds as a party, so that we are able to do things like our whistle stop and continue to do work in the various communities. So when you give to the NRP, just know that these are the kind of things that your money is going towards. And we don't want to ignore or overlook those in the diaspora, because many of them aren't here, but they bought tickets for people here. So they bought tickets because they wanted to support the party, and they said, I'll send somebody who lives there. So I think that is commendable. Some of them contributed in other ways, and so you in the diaspora, we thank you so much as well. Yes, so that was the highlight of the gala. We also had a few persons, yourself included, Mr. Manners,
big surprise.
receiving small tokens of the party's appreciation for the work that you do in helping us to get the message out there. Because we could not have done it, or we can't do it without you guys. So, I need people to recognize that it takes a lot to get certain things done, and everybody has a place. You just have to find your place and give the best that you can from that place, that space, because at the end of it all, when NRP wins, we all win. So that was on the 27th of December. So that's the roundup of recent activities that we had in the NRP, and that I particularly was a part of for the party. Outside of that, what I mentioned, my affiliation with Carnival to some extent. I also want to commend a young lady by the name of Marissa Williams, because she put on a play. It was held on the same date as the National Carnival pageant, the Miss St. Kitts Nevis pageant, And she said, though, that she will have a part 2 in 2026. But I thought that it was a good introduction. And she loves drama. She loves the performing arts. And I want to see more people supporting these kind of things. We talked about the creative economy earlier. This is one way that we can do that. You know, there are a lot of persons with passion who like to write, who like to dramatize, who like to do a number of things. And we want to support them and let them see that, hey, as long as it's positive, we are here with you. So I attended that activity. I hosted for her. And I just want to commend you, Marisa, for, you know, being so brave. And I want to tell you, do not be discouraged. Former Premier Joseph Parry was there as well with his wife to offer support to her.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to the party hierarchy who surprised me on that night. Was surprised when the Master of Ceremonies called me up first to say that there was a token appreciation for hosting this program. I was extremely happy. One of the things I wanted to do at the end of the year was dish out some awards, because the period between July and the end of the year was the most intense media coverage that we have ever seen on Nevis as a result of that SSZ. And so one of the features I wanted to do was to dish out some awards for some of the major players. And believe you me, the 2 awardees after me would have been featured. Kelvin Daly, who I consider to be the researcher of the year. He did such amazing work. And of course, Carleen Lawrence. Carleen, stand your ground, Lawrence, because that evening, Thursday, July 10th, at the Handlers Road Community Center, it is her posture, her stance, her insistence, which brought this thing out in the open and led to the intense debate. So I was extremely happy to see those 2 awarded and recognized for their contribution on that night.
Most definitely.
One of the high points for me was how the organizers reached out to sensations. Here is a young man, a young entrepreneur, restaurant owner from Cox Village, and I was happy to see that he was chosen to take on an enormous task like that, to cater for so many people, and I think that he did an awesome job.
Yes.
Got his menu here.
I can't keep out of his place. But
You see
Will Roy,
it?
I'm trying to lose some weight this year, so you shall be seeing me a little bit less, okay? Yeah, I like his food, really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. We're gonna talk about the debates in a bit, but I also like to reach out to an outstanding young Nevisian. You'd mentioned Devon Cornelius. Well, the first 2 times Devon appeared on this program, he appeared with Devon Cornelius, giving the youth perspective, and that's Dark Brown.
Yes.
But Dark Brown has become such an international star that we can't keep track of him nowadays. He
So
just
proud
came
of
back
him.
from New Zealand. Of course, he's been to Bangladesh, wherever the West Indies team goes. He's there as part of the backroom staff. I know Lauren Pemberton, his aunt, likes to refer to him as, what does she say about him? It's like he's a heartbeat.
He is.
Yeah,
He is.
I saw he got to sing Kits. I saw him jumping up somewhere in a band. He didn't have a costume on.
He's part of, that's for the actual parade, but he's actually instrumental in the Juve Troop Excess, you know.
You do? He does?
Yeah, he's very instrumental in the Juve Troop Excess. So, Dak does a lot. And listen, Dak is my cousin, but I knew Dak when he was younger, not from a cousin standpoint. I always knew he's my cousin, but because he's also cousin with one of my good friends from childhood, you know, we used to be around him a lot. And oh my goodness, Dak was one of those children who you wonder, I wonder what gonna become of Dak. Because anything Dak said, he was super funny. Dak got into any and everything as a little child, but he was just so cute and adorable. And I continue to be proud of all that Dak has achieved. And another thing that I like is the fact that, and I want people to recognize the importance of having a good support system. And I think that's one of the things he has. You mentioned that his aunt speaks highly of him, and that's no lie. And she hasn't just now been speaking highly of him. Lauren has spoke highly of Dark for ages, and it's not just him alone. You know, he has another niece, dear Lonice. Oh my goodness, everything is, you know, Lonice. But that's important. And then in terms of his father and his aunts, you know, by his father's side as well, Virgil Brown, he has that tremendous support. And I want parents to recognize and family members to recognize that Dark is a true testament to it takes a village. It takes a village. And so, I mean, there are times when you wondered if Dark lived in town or St. James, because he was always in both places, and that is important. And so Dark, stay focused. You're a young man, so have fun, but continue to stay focused, and we are proud of you.
And of course, he has his own sports management committee.
Yes.
Managed the Leeward's team in last year's Breakout League. If ever there was a candidate for Man of the Year, it's Dark Brown. And of course, talking about the family structure, of course, his grandfather is the Venerable Franklin Brown, and his wife, who recently celebrated 72 years of marriage. Takes a family, takes a village.
Yes. So congratulations to him. Mr. Manners, one of the things that I wanted to just touch on quickly, not too long, was the budget debates that we had in St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is the stance that I want to take. I remember the St. Kitts Nevis budget taking place after the Nevis budget.
Normally does.
Yes. When the Nevis Island Assembly budget was presented, you didn't hear people calling for the Premier and Minister of Finance to issue a double salary. You didn't hear people putting that level of pressure. As a matter of fact, people didn't seem as enthused by that budget presentation. I'm talking about people on Nevis, by that budget presentation as they were by the federal budget presentation. And for me, I mean, it could be a number of things that, you know, times are changing, but traditionally, I've seen persons a little bit more engaged, even young people a little bit more engaged in the budget debate on Nevis, and I just think that it wasn't that impressive. I don't know if it's because our party leader and candidate for St. James, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, was absent, but I didn't feel that, you know, and that wasn't the tone, that wasn't the conversation that I was hearing. However, even before the federal government presented its budget, that's all you were hearing. People can't wait. People can't wait for this budget. And I even remember people telling me, make sure you let me know when you're talking about this. And I'm like, but y'all know I have to work today, right? You know, we joked about it because people just wanted to hear that. Yes, it is true, because people wanted to, we could say that people wanted to hear of a double salary, and I don't give them wrong, right? I'm not against it, I don't give them wrong. But I want the people of Nevis to remember and understand that we have a federal government which is responsible for the affairs of St. Kitts and Nevis, but mostly St. Kitts.
Why you say mostly St. Kitts?
Because we also have a Nevis Island Assembly government. We also have a Nevis Island administration, right? And so there are certain things that, although there's the federal umbrella, there is, for want of a better term, a subset on Nevis, right? Finance is one of them. And so the Nevis Island administration, with Mark Brantley as its Premier and Minister of Finance, and the others, Spencer, Eric, all of them, being members of that cabinet, have the capacity to pay a double salary to civil servants on Nevis without the approval of the federal government. But that didn't happen, and I want us not to lose sight of that, Mr. Manners. I think people are of the view that it is only the federal government that can pay a bonus. It's not only the federal government that can pay a bonus. It is true That has been the tradition. But the reason why I make this point is because I want us to hold our ministers and our leaders accountable on Nevis, just like we want to hold the federal government accountable, Mr. Manners. I am not saying, and you heard me say it earlier tonight, that Carnival is St. Kitts Nevis National Carnival, and we need not forget that. So you don't have to question where I fall in terms of the support that St. Kitts is obligated to give to Nevis. My issue is we in Nevis seem to demand more of the federal government than we do of our own Nevis Island Assembly. And that for me is an issue. On Nevis Island administration, that is an issue. So the next time we talk about Drew and his cabinet, and we have a right to, let us follow up with Mark and his, because they are the ones who are here to represent us on Nevis. But let's go further. They also have a seat at the federal level, Mr. Manners. They also have seats at the federal level, so they get an extra opportunity to represent us. And I don't know about you, but I was not at all impressed with the level of representation that was meted out by certain members of the federal opposition at the budget. And Mark Brantley was one of them. As a matter of fact, the whole clan from CCM I was not impressed by. For me, Sean Richards, and I'm not going to really go into it too much because he can do his own PR. Sean Richards, for me, debated the budget. For me, Sean Richards debated the budget. Timothy Harris to some extent, but Sean Richards, for me, debated the budget. And he's not somebody I normally gravitate to listening to be honest. But he was crisp. He was crisp, and that is what I expect from a budget debate. It's a debate. It is a debate, Mr. Manners. You don't have to be disrespectful, but it is a debate. And I don't know what happened to us in Nevis, but when we went to St. Kitts a few weeks ago, it's almost as if we didn't do any research, we didn't come prepared. We were in there doing what? If you want to be on the government side, relinquish the position as leader of the opposition. It's that simple. And I need people of Nevis to wake up. We keep giving the CCM an easy pass and thinking that, oh well, the man down there lobby for Nevis. How? Where did you get that impression? Because you see, one of the things that was mentioned was that St. Kitts and Nevis is finally getting its fair share, right? Okay, Nevis is finally getting its fair share according to you. An arrangement is finally put in place after you are no longer the minister. You were a sitting member of a cabinet where you guys came together and formed something called the Charlestown Accord, with one of the main purposes being to ensure that Nevis gets its fair share. And you're saying to us now, several years later, that Nevis is finally getting its fair share. I don't know which version is the truth, because back then it sounded as if that is what was happening. And you sat comfortably in that seat for 2 terms, correct? For 2 terms. And I didn't hear any argument until you got fired. I didn't hear any rare until you got fired. So for me, that's a problem. And another thing I want us to consider is, let's take what the leader said, leader of the opposition said, that Nevis is finally getting its fair share. And this is the best that we've experienced. So what happens next? What then is your move? What is your next move? See, because it seems like you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish. So what next? Why should we send you back to St. Christopher to represent us? And these are the kind of questions that are on my mind, and we all got the same education, so I am no brighter or smarter than you. So I want to think that these are questions that are on your mind too, and maybe even you have some better ones. But these are the kind of questions we need to be asking our leaders. What is next? What can we expect for Nevis? And we can't continue to just expect St. Kitts to be the bailout, because I want to segue into what is happening on the regional and international scene. At that rally on the 13th or 13th, I think, of December, right up in Gingerland at Market Shop, I said that for me, the special sustainability zone is like a CBI remix. And people open their eyes like, wonder what she mean, what she mean. And I explained why I have that particular view. People have a right to disagree. But for me, the Special Sustainability Zone Act sounded a little bit too much like the CBI that we are coming from, which I think we were forced to shift away from, segue from, because of the warnings that we have received on the international level, at the international level. And so I feel that because we recognize that there is so much money to be gained from the CBI program, we don't want to let it go. We've already acknowledged it's a lot of money and we don't want to let it go, right? That's what I think. And so we had to find another way, because remember a few years ago we came forward and said that we are going to restructure the CBI program. And to be honest, I commend the federal government for saying that and making sure that it resonated, within the region and the world, that we were restructuring our CBI program. But it was also reported that the numbers in terms of CBI revenue continue to decline. And so for me, this Special Sustainability Zone Act, the SSZ Act, came to rescue us. Came to be that cushion from us having a hard fall because there was no more CBI money. And I said it on the 13th of December. I'm saying it tonight. On the 5th of January, I have not been able to shake that feeling, Mr. Manners. And so, if it is that we in Nevis continue to be dependent and reliant solely on the federal government, which is also struggling to secure funds, and which also is faced with an insurmountable debt, then why are we relying on this government? What can this present Nevis Island administration do for us? Because it can function on its own in terms of bringing any meaningful revenue and development to Nevis. It's reliant on St. Kitts, which has its own share of problems, as grand as they may be. So why are we still looking at them for help? One of the things I realize, Mr. Manners, if you go home tomorrow and you decide to clear an area of your land and you put up 2 sticks, the premier come by with a camera and say, oh, he's so proud to see Nevisians developing on the island of Nevis because it shows that we are confident in. You would think that it's a government project. Every time, if you only got to clear a piece of land, the premier them take credit. That is how they're operating. Think about what this government has been able to do on its own. What has this government been able to do on its own? So because I bought a car and bought a house, that means it's as a result of this government? You didn't stop to think that I had been working for some time and saving my money to be able to afford this, But that is what is happening. And I need our people to recognize that. Right now, we are seeing a whole dilemma in terms of what's happening in Venezuela, which is not that far, believe it or not. Not that far from us. We all know the name Nicolas Maduro. Remember a couple of years ago, the Venezuelan government gave us some money.
PDVSA.
Okay.
Housing projects on Baker's Corner.
Correct. And so we are familiar with the name of the country and the leader. And the US government has taken a bold step, whether we agree with this step or not, a very bold step as it relates to Venezuela. And I know growing up, people that say, if your neighbor house on fire, wet yours. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not praying, lobbying, or even hoping that St. Kitts and Nevis finds itself in anything, because I can't be selfish. I have to think about all of our people. But can we afford to lose certain key relationships at this time? And so we have to be careful, with these programs. So just like how we knew that we had to be careful with the CBI program, while we sadly need to restructure it, we have to be careful with the special sustainability zone and any project that comes as a subset of it. We have to know where these people are coming from, what their background looks like, what they want to do, and why here. Do we want to risk losing the relationships with these people, with these countries? I remember our current premier saying when he was Minister of Foreign Affairs, diplomacy matters. Diplomacy matters. Every time he went on a trip, he said it's because of diplomacy, and diplomacy matters. But I agree with him, diplomacy does matter. So what are we doing now to ensure that we maintain those diplomatic relations with our allies? Currently, we have visa-free access to more than 100 countries. What can happen? What will happen if we don't do our due diligence as it relates to these people? I remember at that town hall right there at the Anglican Church Hall, I asked about due diligence. And there was a song and dance around my question. I asked about due diligence. You guys do banking. You know, when you come to the financial institutions, we want all kind of things from you. Not because we want to know your business, but because that is a requirement now. They're asking us to have all of this information. We have to know our customers. We have to know our members. So why is it the government is not ensuring that it knows the people giving our passport to? Another thing I want to mention, I have heard our leaders say time and time again that a Republican government is more beneficial to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Right? So what is his take, or what is the take of this administration as it relates to the operations of the Republican government in the US? What is the take? You see, they like to dilly-dally and they like to play safe. But not with my future. Not with our future people. And we got to hold these people accountable. So if you have not been following, I need you to follow what is happening in the US and Venezuela saga. You realize that as much as that is US and Venezuela, people couldn't get out St. Kitts and Nevis come Sunday. Mind you, it happened in Venezuela, you know. But people couldn't get out of St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Grenada and all of the other Caribbean islands, even the Virgin Islands that are part of the United States, they are US territories. People couldn't get out because of the saga between the United States government and the government of Venezuela. People, pay attention. Pay attention. Don't be afraid to ask these types of questions of your leaders. That is what they are there for. I'm not asking you to be disrespectful. Please don't be disrespectful. But I need you to hold the leaders accountable, Mr. Manners.
Let's back up to the double salary.
Sure.
The Premier has been on record on several occasions to say that the Nevis Island Assembly administration is running on fumes. Everybody knows that. Somebody could maybe correct me from the Ministry of Finance in Nevis, call in and correct me. But whether it is the Jew administration, the Timothy Harris administration, the Denzel Douglas administration, double salaries have traditionally been paid from the coffers of the federal government. The numbers don't lie. I've heard Nevis gets 9% of the inflows from CBI. So St. Kitts gets the lion's share. Why shouldn't St. Kitts pay that? Why shouldn't the federal government be paying those? Why put that burden on the Nevis Island administration, which ordinarily struggles to keep the lights on, as they say?
Mr. Manners,
Isn't it unfair to suggest that Nevis should find that money?
Mr. Manners, that was not the point that I made.
Mm-hmm.
The point that I made is that Nevis has the ability. Nevis does not need St. Kitts' permission to pay a double salary. That's the point I'm making, right?
But do they have the wherewithal to do it?
That's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
The point that I am making is Nevis. Okay, let's break it down. A child has two parents, a mother and a father. And in most cases, children live with the mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the father has a right to be involved in that child's life. The father has a right to make decisions regarding that child, even though the child lives with the mother, right? So even though the mother is the one who does most of the work, and the mother is the one who you may see all the time, it doesn't take away from the fact that nothing is stopping the father from buying a pair of shoes. Nothing is stopping the father from paying for college. Nothing is stopping the father from ensuring that he has a presence. And so what I am saying, I am not talking about whether or not the father is employed. I'm saying the father has a right as well. And so to bring it back home to this, the Nevis Island Assembly, Nevis Island Administration, keep saying Assembly, Nevis Island Administration, led currently by the Concerned Citizens Movement, can pay a double salary. There is no prescription that says that the double salary payment has to come from CBI either. There's nothing that says that it has to come from that. Yes, you may be saying, well, you are saying that that has been the source for years, but there's nothing that says that it has to come from that. Just like there's nothing that says that a double salary payment has to come from the federal government. No, the issue of who makes more money is another issue, it's a subset. But for me, ultimately, my point is Nevis and Nevisions need to remember that the same way we are holding the federal government and the Prime Minister to account, we need to hold the local government. We can't, it's almost as if we want to say, okay, Mark Brantley and Spencer and Eric and all of the others can just throw up their hands, put up their feet, and let the federal government run Nevis. It seems as if that is what we want. It seems as if that is what we expect. I don't expect that. If it is that is what they want, then give up your seats at the local level and go work in St. Kitts. But you can't tell me that you are responsible for being the Nevis Island Administration, but you are reliant on St. Kitts for everything. That, Mr. Manners, is the point that I'm trying to make.
Now, the most laughable thing for me in the federal debate is how all of a sudden the Prime Minister Terence Jew, who going on 4 years is yet to pay a visit to Nevis, became the major spokesperson for the people of Nevis, of course, joining the argument that the Premier Mark Brantley was making. For instance, he evoked the Charlestown Accord for the first time. That goes back, going on 12 years, signed on December 17, 2014. And he is blaming Timothy Harris for not giving Nevis its fair share. But under his dispensation, the amount of money coming to Nevis annually has moved from 66 million to, if I remember correctly, 41 million. So we are getting less, even though the Premier is trying to make the argument that for the first time we are getting our fair share. Why don't you decide to give Nevisians all that he said that Timothy Harris withheld from the Nevis Island Administration? If he and the Premier is so good, why don't he now make a goodwill gesture and say, since Timothy Harris stole this amount for you, I'm now giving it to the coffers of the Nevis Island Assembly. And then the NIA might be able to pay a double on its own.
Why don't the... Point taken, but I'll go further. Why don't the Nevis Island Administration, with representation at the federal level, demand that of the Prime Minister and his cabinet.
Well, we all know they're backbenchers in this
No,
government.
but
You,
Mr.
for instance,
Manners,
they are Labour backbenchers.
Mr. Manners,
we have said it many times. They are not. I was so sorry for my
didn't
farmers.
vote. I didn't vote for Drew, and I didn't vote for Drew and Labour and PAM and PLP. Not one of them was on the ticket when I went to place my ex.
Were you?
I voted for CCM or NRP.
Well, we know they are
Nevis.
non-functional. We know they are non-functional, and I've said many occasions. Mark Brantley is by name only the leader of the opposition in the Federal Assembly. He tried to make his arguments about fair share, and for the first time we are getting a reasonable deal. But as you mentioned, the real opposition members were Sean Richards and Timothy Harris. So one of the resolutions Mark Brantley should make is to step aside as leader of the opposition to better manage the remaining time he has in the Nevis Island Assembly and allow the real leaders of the opposition in St. Kitts to function. You know what they did? They gave that role to Latoya Jones. So she was down there talking about Bastia High School when this can start, but not asking when the Alexandria Hospital will get addressed. So the roles of the Nevis ministers in the House of Assembly were ludicrous. They were laughable. And that's a dilemma we face in the National Assembly, that the people who hold the role of leader of the opposition have not been functioning.
Mr. Manners, I want to make it clear that I have my reservations and concerns as it relates to the running of the federal government. As a government for both St. Kitts and Nevis in particular. So I have my comments, and I've had that as it relates to all of the administrations at the federal level. You know, obviously there are certain things that I absolutely love, and I'm not afraid to say that I love, but there are certain things that I frown upon, and so I have those reservations, right? However, I like that saying, as simple as it is, dance a yard before you dance abroad, right? And I have recognized that whether or not we like it, we have to accept that there is something that the CCM is doing why they have been able to keep winning elections. Whether it is fair or unfair, that's not the issue right now. It is the fact that they keep winning elections, right? And so it tells me, at least to some extent, because listen, even though we in the NRP feel, and I for sure strongly feel that I won the last election, but even though that is how we feel, the reality is it should have never been that close to begin with. So for me, we lost because even if we won by one, we should have won by more. That's my point. Okay? That being said, I think that the reason why a lot of things continue, the reason why the administration continues to be elected is because our people turn a blind eye. We get so caught up and so taken up in what is happening at the federal level that we bypass what is happening or not happening locally. And that is the point that I'm trying to bring across, Mr. Manners. I am not saying that everything that the Prime Minister present and the Prime Minister past have done is good. Nor am I saying everything that they have done is bad. What I'm saying, though, is that in Nevis, we see more bad than good. We see more bad than good. And these are the people who are elected to represent us locally and nationally. Because hear this. When we vote in the Nevis Island Assembly elections, there are 5 constituencies, and that's Nevis 1 through to Nevis 5, right? And I know that we see NRP and CCM on the ticket. Last time, we saw another party as well, with 2 persons. But generally, those are who we see. I never see a ballot in my years, and I've been voting for a while, that had on anybody from Labour, anybody from PAM, anybody from PLP. That's not to say that I'm not interested in what is going on there. But I cannot be more interested in that than I am in what is happening here. And I think that our leader has done it strategically, and his team, to show the attention over there so that Nevis people can lose focus.
And it is your role as a member of the opposition to strategically show the people of Nevis that these are two different administrations who have elections at two different times. So it's incumbent on you two to make those arguments. Are you trying to tell me that the CCM is winning based on what the federal government is doing?
Mr. Manners, I'm not trying to tell you anything. I am telling you. I am telling you that our people are misguided by the current administration in Nevis, and there are people right here in Nevis who are playing into that role, who continue to give them a free pass because we are more... Listen, this is me. If you hear me say something about the federal government and its operations, I would say it unapologetically, because I'm speaking from how I feel, and I don't practice disrespecting anybody, right? Even if they have a differing view. And so if you hear me say something about Minister X at the federal level, trust and believe are coming behind with Minister A at the local level. And the reason for that is that I want our people not to lose sight of the fact that we are voting here on Nevis. We are voting for people to represent us, to develop Nevis, as well as represent us in St. Kitts. That is the point I'm making. And I think, and I don't like to tap myself on the shoulder, but I think that I continue to do a good job of sharing that to people. But I cannot do it alone, Mr. Manners. I cannot do it alone. And so that is why you're going to get me or hear me saying that I disagree. I cannot be so focused on the Dr. Terence Drew-led administration that I ignore the Mark Brantley-led administration.
Well,
it just can't happen.
Well, I don't.
It just can't happen.
I don't expect you to just ignore that. And it is your role to focus on the shortcomings of the NIA, because that is where we cast our votes over here. As you said, we don't vote for anybody in PAM or anybody in Labour. But here is one occasion where Terence Drew cannot escape. You've mentioned Venezuela. We have seen military hardware being amassed in the Caribbean Sea for the last couple of weeks. They sprung into action on Saturday evening. 157 airplanes or winged equipment over Venezuela. They captured him, took him back to the United States, and was indicted in Manhattan courtroom today. It is ironic, and you're saying that the Premier of Nevis has said that things are normally better for us in a Republican government. Now, that happened 36 years to the day when another Republican government went into Panama and took out Manuel Noriega in 1990. It has happened again. And it happened the day after Terence Drew became the chairperson of CARICOM. Are you satisfied that CARICOM is working in our best interests, and that in light of all that's happening in Venezuela and the problems it has created in St. Kitts with people trying to get out from Carnival, BVI, same thing, that we've been hearing enough from our leadership in the Caribbean? As a matter of fact, some people think that CARICOM is bitterly divided on this matter, especially with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who allowed the Americans to put equipment in Tobago to follow what's going on in the Caribbean region. Similar approaches were made to the Prime Minister of Grenada and the Prime Minister of Antigua. Don't we have a leadership crisis in the Caribbean now that we are facing what he calls the Donroe Doctrine? We know the Monroe Doctrine going back to 1823. Donald Trump is now introducing the Donroe doctrine into the Caribbean. What do you expect from your Prime Minister? And of course we're having their first meeting under his leadership They had one by teleconference where all people could not attend, all leaders, but they're all coming to St. Kitts on February 24th to 27th. Would you like to see Terence Drew step up to the plate and represent the region and the people of the Federation on this matter?
Okay, so Mr. Manners, I'll comment quickly because there's one more thing I want to touch on before we go, and we're almost out of time. But of course, I think that's even rhetorical. Of course, I want to see Prime Minister Drew step up to the plate and really shine in his post as chair of CARICOM. I can't ignore the fact, though, Mr. Manners, that the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis assumed that role officially on the 1st, if I'm not mistaken, of January, right? This happened shortly after. CARICOM's position would not change in a day or in 2 days. And so the problems that are being faced, and I do agree with you that I think that there's some division, I do think so too. But that's just from the outside looking in. CARICOM's view, though, could not have changed in a day or two, Mr. Manners. CARICOM's problems would not have been eradicated in a day or two. And so for me, while I totally agree with you that I want to see, while I feel that the Prime Minister should step up a little bit more and I want to see him shine, I really want him to do well in this role as chair of CARICOM, I cannot lay the blame squarely at his feet, to be honest, because the problems in CARICOM fall at the feet of all of the member states, because Dr. Drew just became the chair of CARICOM yesterday. You understand what I mean? Not physically yesterday, but yesterday. You understand? And so, where are the other leaders and what have they been doing? Right? And I'll tell you this, it's a little bit off topic, but to me it still ties in. I feel the same way, or I felt the same way as I feel now when all this talk erupted about the ECCB headquarters, ECCU headquarters, the home for the governor. And there were some ministers posturing like this is the first they've seen, and I mean the structure was near complete. And my thing is, as a member of the ECCU, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, you ought to have known, right? And so yes, it's all good now to come out with your song and dance and say, oh, this is unacceptable, the money could have been better spent, it could have been less grand. It's the same thing. Yes, it is unfortunate. Yes, Dr. Drew is the chair of CARICOM, but where were you when CARICOM should have been having these types of discussions? Because the President of the United States, as different as he is in his leadership style, didn't just get up yesterday and say, let me take over Venezuela. He has been saying to us over and over the things that he's going to do. He ain't, so far I am yet to see like a whole lot of things that the gentleman did that he didn't tell us he was going to do. And so the signs were there, the warnings were there. Where were we? You understand? Those things were there, but we weren't there, and that is the problem that I'm having. The policy direction must come from the top. So as a member, as a citizen, proud one that is, of St. Kitts and Nevis, and even with my reservations about certain things happening at the federal level, and trust me, there are many that I'm not pleased with, I cannot nail the current Prime Minister and chair of CARICOM, current Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis and chair of CARICOM, Dr. Drew, to the cross on this matter. What I am willing to do, though, is come back and address it as time goes on, when I see the direction that they're going, because I like to be fair, give people a fair chance to, fix the problem. But for me, as it is right now, I don't think that it is his fault.
Well, I'm not laying it on his feet. What I'm talking about is a fragmented region where Trinidad, who's the closest to Venezuela, has obviously gone off on its own tangent. And the leaders in the Caribbean are buckling. For instance, Gaston Brown, somebody who I like, decided to do away with the Cuban Brigade. Where do you think that pressure came from? Roosevelt Skerritt in Dominica and Gaston Brown in Antigua over the weekend and today announced that they will be receiving persons who America wants to send to other countries, to a third country, because it would be wrong to send them back to their country of birth. On many occasions, Trump has selected certain leaders in the Caribbean to invite, to meet with them while leaving others out. And all that we've been hearing is, oh, we want the region to be a zone of peace. What I see is a dismantling of the leadership structure of CARICOM. And I think we're going to have a very, very difficult time in 2026 and going forward with this erratic Trump. As a matter of fact, whether you want to believe it or not, Trump will go into Cuba before his time is up.
Well, Mr. Matters, you know, you have the right to your statements and your views as it relates to anybody and their leadership style. Donald Trump is not my leader, and so while I know that his actions have the potential to affect us here, I am more concerned with the actions of our current administration in the future that is being prepared, or lack thereof, for my child and other children. And that is something that really bothers me on a daily basis. And to be honest, that is one of the main reasons why I decided to get involved in elective politics, because I decided, listen, JD, it's time to be the change that you want to see. And so I am a firm believer in holding our people's feet to the fire, even while being respectful, because I think that as someone who is aspiring to be a member of parliament, I would want respect. And so even when I oppose them, I still am respectful. And so I'm asking the community, because I see sometimes on social media in particular, we get a little bit over the top with our comments and how we refer to those on the other side. So it's good time now for me to just throw that in there. We can focus on the issues and not the people. So let's try to do that in 2026. No love lost. I still appreciate the passion that you guys bring in, you know, focusing on moving NRP forward. But I also want you to remember that when we get in, we want people to respect us. So let's respect them over on that side. I didn't get a chance to. You were saying something?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to, and I guess another time, I didn't get a chance to say what I wanted to say about this term, but I'll just mention one quick thing, that we know that this is what we call a Nevis sports term, where you will see a lot of sporting activity. Well, track and field term, let me say that. Athletics, because football and cricket, they're sports too, but in terms of track and field, this is the term for that. And I was at the Mondo facility just today before coming here, and in some areas the grass was knee-high, and that is unacceptable. Also, we are now several years in, and there has been no change to that facility, except that we got a 2-story VIP section that leaks, and I mean, we are still seated on temporary stands. We still have to walk a mile to use the restroom. I mean, it is really unacceptable. There isn't even a sign to tell you where you are over there. And these are some of the things that I want us to remember. Remember what was promised and remember what was delivered. So every time people come around and they give you a little change or they tell you something sweet, remember this. Remember this. I ain't telling you, I ain't take it to the car, I would take it to. But remember this, okay? So that's something that I wanted to mention, and you'll hear more about that as time goes on. And finally, I want to put a plea out here, Mr. Manners, for people to be registered. Many of you have young adults in your homes who aren't registered to vote. And some of them are registered because they want an ID. So they went and got registered so that they can get an ID, but they have no intention of voting. I think it is time for you to start to have that conversation with them about the importance of having a say in the future of their island, the future of their country. Because whether we agree with the practices of other leaders in other parts of the world or not, we recognize that a number of them are saying, look, this is my place and I am safeguarding my place. These are my people and I'm putting them first. And that is why you find that when you go certain places, you can't get a job before them, right? And so what we are saying is, imagine we can't come first out there. We should at least come first here. And so you want to start to have that conversation with the people in your homes. It can't just be you alone going out to vote and you got 4 people in your home, your boyfriend, your children not voting. So I want us to mark a man, as we say. I want us to take up that responsibility. Don't say, oh, JD, the candidate, let JD go talk to them. No, you talk to them, and then you call me and say, JD, I talk to them, but I want you to come and talk to them too, and I will ask you when. That is what I want to see going forward. Guys, this election is important. Whenever it is called, we need to be ready. We need to be ready like our future depends on it, because our future does. We will have differences of opinion, and that is fine. That's what democracy is about. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it is about moving Nevis forward. Ask yourself, are you comfortable with where we are on the island of Nevis? Are you comfortable with the quality of health care on Nevis? Are you comfortable with the state of education? Do you think that we can go further? Are you comfortable with the cost of living? What can be done? Are they doing enough? I am telling you, what this government has not done in 13 years, they will not do in another 5. They couldn't do it in 13 years, and I said 13 because January makes 13 years since this particular administration has been in. Remember, we had another administration, NRP government in before that, and then prior to that it was another 14 years. And so this administration has been in for most of my life. Are you comfortable, or do you think we deserve more? Don't you just look out there and you see some of the exciting and great things that's happening out there, and you say, boy, I wish Nevis. Well, you know Nevis can. You know St. Kitts can. In Nevis, we just need to put the right people in place. Give us a chance. I'm asking you to give me a chance in St. Paul. People of St. Paul. And people of Nevis, I'm asking you to give the NRP a chance. And if we fail you, and you don't think that after giving us a chance that we've done better than the CCM administration, then you have all right not to give us another chance. But I'm just asking for that chance. I know that I can do better than what we are currently getting in St. Paul. I have no hatred for anybody in the government. I have no hatred for anybody who is up against me or will come up against me. None whatsoever. But I am confident in my ability that I can deliver. I am confident that the team that I am a part of is best suited to represent Nevis at this time. As usual, I want to thank Mr. Manners for having me.
Well, don't thank me yet, because I have one more thing for you.
Mr. Manners is past my bedtime.
I know you could stay up a little later, just for a few minutes, because I must get this in. Because we're talking about accountability. And you spoke about the SSZ, and we didn't get a lot of time to talk about it. In December, Olivier Janssen said he would like to sign this document. He would like this document to be signed by the end of the year. Premier said he was inclined to do it. We are now 5 days in. I thought that his New Year's address was short in that regard. Shouldn't he come to the people and tell us where we are with that?
Correct. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. That is not even a favor you're granting us. You ought to. You know, that is something that ought to happen. It's been going on for some time. We are we. Mm-hmm. We are we. I think that's a very fair statement, and I support you 100% with that. It's time for us to know where we are. What are the next steps, Mr. Manners? I agree with you.
Now you can have your bedtime. It's 12 minutes past 10, and it's such a pleasure to have had you tonight. You've been very quiet out there. Maybe some of you don't know that we're on already. Your neighbors should have called you and tell you. We didn't get a call or anything, but we had a very spirited discussion. And every Monday, moving on into 2026, we'll be here. Because we have 2 elections in 2026. Believe it or not.
Masharama, that's the celebration or the fusion of Matramani in Guyana and Culturama in Nevis, is coming up on the 28th of February this year. And so while I was here, I received that save the date. And so I just wanted to let you guys know to save that date, February 28th, 2026. I have attended the celebrations in previous years. They've had, would he think I'm Guyanese, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what his story be. I have, give me one day shirts and all. But anyway, I really like the celebration that they have. And I like that they gave it a new name because they sought to have that fusion. So that's coming up on the 28th of February, and of course they will announce what the actual activities will be, but just save that date in the meantime. So I wanted to mention that, and of course I want to say thanks to Mr. Manners and the team here at 2020 Vision Radio for having me another evening. It's the first program for 2026, and we are looking forward, God sparing our lives, to many more. As we go through this year, particularly this term, I want to wish the students and the teachers and the ancillary staff success. The first term went by quickly, and trust me, this one will go by even quicker, because it's said to be the shortest term, and it has so many activities within it, so you would see that it goes by really quickly. So I just want to wish you a successful term, and please ensure that our children continue to eat and drink as they should. Parents, the onus is on us to really make sure that is happening, because they'll be doing a lot more activities. So don't just give them the food and leave them. Come back behind and make sure that that is happening. Generally, I just want us to work together a little bit more here on the island of Nevis. For those of you who have not seen me, because maybe when I come to your homes, you're not there, you will be seeing me, and I hope I get the opportunity to catch you when you're at home. For those of you who have seen me before, you'll be seeing me again, because I've pledged that I will continue to engage you, not just when it's an election. Mr. Manners said we have 2 elections in 2026. He probably has some information that I don't. Whether we have elections this year or next year when they're constitutionally due, for me, at the end of the day, I am ready to be your humble servant, and so I can't do it without you. So I am asking you to just give me that opportunity. Mr. Manners, thank you so much for having me this evening.
And thank you for being our special guest. Dynamic as usual. Good night, everyone. Join us next week.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your